What's up guys, and welcome back to another episode of the F1 Road to Esports, here today for episode number 2. If you're enjoying this series, do make sure to leave a like and let me know down below what you're thinking of this series so far. We had a comment last time from Mr. Tiamat Marduk saying that he'd like to come on the series, so if you guys would like that, do let me know. I'm sure you would love to see that. Maybe let me know exactly what role you'd like to see him play. But into this episode, and last time out, we jumped into an online race, which we got pretty fortunate in to win, but we also went into time trial, and we were in 670th place around the Hockenheim ring. So we're going to have to improve that. So the Veloce shirt did as well, especially in the online race, but we've gone with the Mercedes shirt today, because we're around the Hockenheim ring, of course, a German track, and we're driving the Mercedes. So we're just going to channel our inner Mercedes, our inner Brendan Lee, and try and do a little bit better. So we're going to start off this episode with a little hot lap comparison between myself and VELOCE Limitless. So his hot lap that is on YouTube, I'll leave a link down to his video down below. So I'm just going to do a little bit of a comparison and see exactly where we're losing time in comparison to the big guns. So the hot lap comparison between myself and VELOCE Limitless is just going to take the usual AOR style that I did in Season 16. So we've got JD on the left hand side, myself on the right, and we're just going to be picking up on points where I can improve. So into turn 1, we can cut that corner a lot more. Try and keep off the curb on the exit as well, because we did get a bit of instability there. And breaking down into turn 2, interestingly enough, JD shifted down into second gear momentarily. So that's something which is a common theme over the course of the lap, and there you can see at the end of sector 1, he's not actually too far ahead. It is obviously a relatively short sector, but 1.5 tenths is the difference. Now coming down this main straight, we shifted into 8th gear just a little bit too late, so that's another thing to consider. And braking now into turn 6. JD goes down into 1st gear momentarily, and was just a little bit tidier on the brakes, so that's something which we've got to sort out. Try and eliminate any sort of lockups, and coming towards the Mercedes grandstand now. This is one of the major points where we lose time. You can see running out so wide there that we completely narrow off this corner. Which is something that JD didn't do, and you can see at the end of Sector 2, this is the biggest loss for us. I believe, what is it, 6 tenths of a second? Yes, 6.3 tenths of a second we lost in Sector 2 alone. And now coming into turn 12, this bank corner, again, JD shifting momentarily down into second gear. And apart from that, there's not really too much difference. We've got to try and keep it maybe off the curbs a little bit more. Attack that final corner just a tad more. And that is the difference. Just over 1 second in the end is what we've got to make up. So back to Hockenheim we go. Ready to beat our lap, hopefully. I want to try and break that 1:11. That's got to be the first goal. And then after that, we'll try and nibble away at the time. I've actually loaded up Limitless's setup just so we get a bit more of a direct comparison between the two of us. And yeah, that's about it really. So I'm going to jump out onto track and just do a little bit of a warm-up lap. I'll commentate over this one as well, just to sort of tell you guys what I aim to do over the course of the lap. Whether it ends up happening or not is another matter. But out of the final corner, I don't think there's really too much else we can do. Just try and take as wide a line as possible. And then into turn 1, we know that we've got to try and cut that track as much as it lets us. It did actually let us do it there. Now this is the interesting corner. So what we're going to have to do is like just shift down for a tiny amount of time. I did it for way too long there into second gear, but just a little bit. Now here, I think we're just going to go into 8th gear straight away. I got told that revving it in 7th gear was better, but I'm not 100% sure. Now here, just make sure we don't lock up. Go into 1st gear momentarily. Just don't do that. This has been a terrible warm-up lap, but I'm trying to represent exactly what I'm going to do. Not very well, admittedly. And then into here. So we just got to get towards that left-hand side of the track as quickly as possible, because then that opens it up so much more. And yeah, hopefully we can do that. And then this final part of the lap, to be honest, I don't think there was that much that we did wrong in the final part of the lap. Try not to get as much on that curb, because I remember that unsettled us quite a bit. And then try and get this final bit of the lap so that we don't understeer like that. That was our main problem last time, so don't chuck it all away on the final corner. That was the worst warm-up lap in existence, but now I'm just going to go away and sweat it, and let's see what we can do. Now, our first few attempts at improving our lap didn't go too brilliantly. You can see us here coming over the start-finish line. And, well, our laps were pretty much over before they began. You can see running wide there and invalidating the lap. That became a bit of a theme. We did that a few times. And the other thing that we were doing, when we were getting the turn 1 right, we were just losing so much time in comparison. Now, finally, we managed to hook up a lap where we didn't mess up turn 1, cutting it just about the right amount. Not quite as good as our previous best lap, but now on the run down to turn 2, the first time that we'd actually done this, and we end up spinning out. Not great. Now, after we'd messed up turns 1 and 2 about 10 or 15 times, we just decided, you know what, I'm going to take a flashback, just so that we could get used to this second half of the lap. So you can see we're about 1.5 tenths down at this point, but taking that narrow turn 8 at the Mercedes grandstand and just accelerating it through the end of the second sector meant that we gained about 2.5, 3 tenths of a second. Couple that with a good turn 11, and we're about 2 tenths of a second up. So this was pretty good, knowing that we did have that pace inside of us, and although we lost a little bit of time through these final couple of corners, so we've got to tidy those up, it was reassuring to know that there was a lot of time for us to gain. So now it was time for us to do it in a normal lap, and again we're about 1.2 tenths of a second down in comparison to our previous best delta, but taking that narrower line and opening up the rest of the track means that we are over 1.5 tenths quicker through that second sector split. Now going into the Sachs curve, this cambered left-hander, we are now nearly 3 tenths of a second up, just a couple of corners to go, and this right-hander got a bit of understeer through there, but still keeping it about 2.5 tenths quicker. Not the greatest final turn, but a 1:11 dead was the result. We knew, though, that there was still a lot of time on the table, and going through turn 1 there, we gain about 1.5 tenths of a second, showing just how much it really is on the table. But go to the final sector, and, well, we completely bottled it. We were still about 1.5 tenths up through the first 2 sectors, and a dreadful final sector, completely messy, means that we only make it a 1:10.9. So to be honest, there was probably about 2 tenths of a second on the table in the final sector. Unfortunately, our second sector on this lap wasn't quite as good. Just 6 hundredths of a second behind our previous best time. But now going into the Sachs curve, already a tenth of a second up in comparison. And these final 2 corners, we knew that we needed to just not mess them up. And once again, we ran wide into the penultimate corner. Still, though, it was faster than our previous attempt and made it a 1:10.881. Here, though, is our best lap that we managed in the session. Now, I scheduled about 45 minutes to an hour to try and get a good lap in, but I ended up spending a good hour and a half, 2 hours, and this was the best attempt. So coming out of the final corner, getting a little bit wide, but trying to carry as much momentum as possible before we go into turn 1. We cut it just a nice amount, a little bit of correction required on exit of turn 1, but still looking pretty good in comparison to our previous best time. We actually held it in 3rd gear through here, despite Limitless dropping it down into 2nd. We felt that just sort of unstabilised the car a little bit, but minus 0.140 on the first sector, so nearly a tenth and a half up in comparison to our previous best time before breaking now into the hairpin. Not turning in too early, we don't want to clip that inside curb, but we also don't want to hit the outside curb to generate any wheel spin. And sure enough, we managed to gain a little bit more time before now going down into turn 8 at the Mercedes grandstand. Not locking up that inside front tyre and opening up the track for the exit and the end of this second sector. Not quite as good as we managed previously, so it's only a tenth of a second up in comparison. And then as we go through the turn 11, the Mobile 1 curve, we lost a little bit of time, and we are now down in comparison to our previous best time. So probably a tenth and a half has been lost in comparison to our previous best lap, but the good final couple of corners means that we've resurrected it and are a tenth of a second up and make it a 1:10.751. Now, we knew exactly how much time was on the table in those final couple of sectors, but no matter what we did, we just could not hook up turn 1. You can see there, we've already lost about a tenth and a half in turn 1, so it's almost no use trying the rest of the lap. And yeah, it was really becoming an issue for us. Even when we were trying sort of similar lines through turn 1, we were finding that our laps were pretty inconsistently being invalidated. So you have a look at the screenshot there. We're a tiny little bit off the track, no more than we were on our legal lap, and it's getting invalidated. So in the end, we had to settle for a 1 minute 10.751. Our fastest sectors didn't actually come in the same lap, so there wasn't too much of a difference in Delta, but still, we know how much time was still on the table. It may have been in different corners, but if we could have hooked up a perfect corner for every single lap, obviously it's very difficult to do, but yeah, I think we would have been probably a tenth or two quicker than that 1:10.7, but still, our fastest theoretical lap was still a 1:10.7, so yeah, it's neither here nor there, really. And just to cap things off, I thought I'd leave you with this as a parting thought. So this is the final lap that we did, the one where I was like, yeah, we're just going to switch off the PC as soon as we finish this lap. And sure enough, we end up spinning out, despite us being on a pretty quick lap. So here I am a good couple of hours later, and that was quite intense. I did quite a lot of laps. And unfortunately, we only actually made it to 260th in the world. Now, I think part of the reason may be because it's F1 Esports. That's I believe that's the next event is Hockenheim. So you've got a lot of the esports guys practicing, but all in all, I just, yeah, wasn't really quick enough. That turn one, it's just so difficult to like find the balance between corner cutting it and actually validating your lap. So yeah, it's a bit of a funny one, but hopefully next time trial, my aim is to get, I say top 200. We're going to take it one step at a time, and then hopefully before long, we'll get our first top 100 finish. But, guys, let me know if you enjoyed the style of this video. Suggest any improvements, and if you did enjoy it, leave a like. Let me know down in the comments below, and I'll catch you guys in my next video. Do take care. Bye-bye.